Hello Year 2, how are you? And welcome to today's reading lesson. How did you get on in the last lesson? Were you able to retrieve the key information from Pumpkin Soup to answer the questions? Brilliant, well done if you did. And it's excellent to see some of you sending in your worksheets so that I can see your answers to the questions as well. So well done. Now today we're going to be using the same book, Pumpkin Soup. I hope you enjoyed it. And instead of doing retrieval this lesson, we're going to be looking at inferences. So we're going to be drawing inferences from the text. Now, we did inferences last week with bubbles, didn't we? Can you remember what an inference is? Pause the video now and have a think. Okay, shall we see if you've remembered? So an inference is when you use clues in the text. So that could be either from a picture in the book or what's already been said and done, and your own knowledge to answer questions maybe about someone's feelings, like we did with bubbles, or maybe the time of day it is. It might not tell us what time of day it is, but it might, for example, say it's dark. So then we can infer that it is nighttime. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing today with the story Pumpkin Soup. So by the end of the lesson, you'll have made some inferences and you also will have learnt some new vocabulary. So we're going to look at the vocabulary in the sentences and try and work out what it means from the context, okay? So today we're going to only be working on your document from pages 9 to the end of the book. So if you'd like to have a look at it while I'm reading along, that's fine. But if you'd just like to listen and then read it afterwards, that's also fine. So shall we start? So they waited all that long afternoon. The cat watched the door. The squirrel paced the floor. That duck will be sorry when he comes home, they muttered. But the duck didn't come home, not even at soup time. So there's a word on this page that we're going to look at, and that's the word paste. So the squirrel paced the floor. What does the word paste mean? Well, we know in this sentence it's a verb, isn't it? Because it's telling us what the squirrel is doing. And as we know with stories, the verb will be in the past tense. Now, from our phonics lesson yesterday, do you remember what a syllable was? Shall we clap along to the word paste to see how many syllables are in the word? Okay, you ready? 3, 2, 1, paste. Yes, that's right, there's only one, isn't there? Now, paste means when you walk back and forth. So you walk forwards and backwards, okay? And it's normally because you're quite anxious about something, you're quite nervous. So I've used it in a sentence here. The boy paced the room waiting for his exam results. So he's probably quite nervous about getting his exam results, isn't he? Might not know how he's done. So he's pacing for that reason, pacing the room, he's walking back and forth. So synonyms here. Do you know what a synonym is? Yes, that's right. It's when it's different words which mean the same thing as the original word. So some synonyms of pace. We've got walk, stride, patrol. Now, if a policeman is patrolling an area, he'll walk back and forth to make sure he knows what's going on and to see if he can see anything, okay? And they've also got march. So march, you normally, walk in march in a straight line one way, and then you'll march back. Now, we've also got some near antonyms. So if a synonym is a word which means the same thing, an antonym is a word that means the opposite. So if, for example, the antonym of happy would be sad. Okay, so near antonyms are stroll and wander. Okay, so if he's pacing, he's quite nervous, isn't he? But if you're strolling or you're wandering, you're probably quite relaxed. You're not going on the walk for any reason at all, just for a little bit of fun. So that would be an antonym of to pace. Okay, shall we carry on with the story? So they're waiting at home. The soup wasn't tasty. They'd made it too salty. They didn't feel hungry anyway. They both sobbed over supper and their tears dripped into the soup and made it even saltier. We should have let him stir the soup, sniffled the squirrel. He was only trying to help, wept the cat. Let's go out and look for him. Okay. So the cat and the squirrel were scared as they wandered down the path in the dark, dark woods. They feared for the duck all alone with the trees, and the foxes, and the wolves, and the witches, and the bears, but they couldn't find him. On and on they trudged until they reached the edge of a steep, steep cliff. Maybe he fell down that, wailed the cat. I'll save him, squeaked the squirrel, and he scrambled down on a long, shaky rope. He searched all around on the ground, but he couldn't find the duck. Then the cat whispered in a sad little voice, Duck might have found some better friends. He might, sighed the squirrel, friends who let him help. And the more they thought about it as they plodded back, the more they were sure they were right. Okay, so we're going to look at another word on this page, and that word is plodded. So in the book it says, and the more they thought about it as they plodded back, the more they were sure they were right. So again, if they're plodding, that's what they're doing. So it's a verb, and it's in the past tense because it's in a story. And look, it ends with the suffix ed. Now, how many syllables has plodded got? Should we clap along? Plodded. There we go. It's got 2. And what does it mean if you plod? Well, it means to walk slowly with heavy feet, okay? So you could say we plodded our way across the muddy field, because if you're plodding in mud, if you're walking in mud, it's going to be quite hard, isn't it? And your feet are going to feel quite heavy. So therefore, you're going to be plodding. And if you're plodding, your feet normally make quite a lot of noise. So for example, if you plod up the stairs, everyone in the house will be able to hear you. So a synonym for that, a word that means the same thing, stomp, so you could stomp up the stairs too, or an antonym would be tiptoe, because if you tiptoe, you're not heard, are you? Okay, so that would be the antonym. Now let's carry on reading. So they're walking home. But when they were almost home, they saw light shining from the old white cabin. It's Duck! They shrieked as they burst through the door, and the duck was so happy to see them. He was also very hungry and thought it was late. They thought they would all make pumpkin soup. Okay, so we're going to look at another word from that page. And it says, it's Duck, they shrieked as they burst open the door. Now, did you hear how I said that then? It's Duck, they shrieked as they burst open the door. Okay, that might give you a clue to what the word means, shriek. So we've got a word which is a verb because they're doing it, and it's in the past tense again because we're in a story and it's happened. And how many syllables has it got? Let's have a go. 3, 2, 1. Shrieked. There we go, only 1. Now it means to utter a high-pitched sound or some words. Okay, so remember in music we did about a high-pitched sound, so that's what it means. It's when you make a high-pitched sound with your voice. Now I've used it in a sentence here. The girl shrieked with delight when she opened her present. So it could mean, if you're shrieking, that you're happy, or it could also mean maybe if you saw a spider, you can shriek because you're scared. Okay, so there are different ways in which you can feel if you shriek. Now some synonyms. We've got scream, squeal, shout. Okay, and our antonyms, whisper. Now if you shriek, lots of people will hear you because it's quite a loud noise. But if you whisper, which is the opposite, it's an antonym, not many people will hear you, will they? So should we carry on? So they're making pumpkin soup. When the duck stirred, the cat and the squirrel didn't say a word. Not even when the duck stirred the soup so fast that it slopped right out of the pot. Not even when the pot got burnt. Then the duck showed the squirrel how to measure out the salt, and the soup was still the best you ever tasted. So once again, it was peaceful in the old white cabin until the duck said, shall we play the bagpipes? Okay, so there you go. That's the end of our story. Now, we're going to be looking at some inference questions, and we're going to be starting the first one. So the first one is, how do you think Squirrel and Cat felt as they waited in the cabin on that long afternoon? Now, there's 2 parts to this question. It also says, What in the text makes you think this? So let's read that page. So they waited all that long afternoon. The cat watched the door, the squirrel paced the floor. Okay. Now, do you remember when we said paced, the word paced? How does somebody normally feel if they're pacing? Tell your screen. Yes, that's right. They're normally nervous or worried about something. So we could say, I think that squirrel and cat were worried about duck. Now you could answer that. That's quite a short sentence, isn't it? And we want to say, answer the second part of the question, what in the text makes you think this? So it says the cat watched the door. So we could say, because the text says the cat watched the door, which shows he wanted to know where he was. Okay, so if the cat's watching the door, he's looking through the little window, he's probably worried about where Duck is, isn't he? So he's looking through the window trying to find him. Now, that's one clue in the text that shows one of the animals are worried about Duck. Then let's think back to our word paced, okay? So the second sentence is the squirrel paced the floor. Now, we said earlier that that means he's probably quite nervous. So we could also say, as a second part of our question, the text also says that the squirrel paced the floor, which shows he couldn't stand still from worry, okay? Because he's nervous, he can't stand still, he's all agitated, okay? So that could be our answer to the question. Not only have we said how we think they feel, we've used quotes, so we've taken sentences out of the book to explain further, okay? And that's what I'd like you to do with your questions, okay? Not just say what you think, but say why. So these are the questions you're going to be doing on your own. So we've done the first one together, but have a go at writing it yourself as well. Then number 2, the cat and the squirrel are feeling guilty as they eat their dinner. What in the text tells us this? Number 3, how do you think squirrel felt when he scrambled down the cliff? Why do you think this? Number 4, what does the verb plodded suggest about how the animals are feeling when they are walking home? Now, we talked about the verb plodded, didn't we? How do you think the squirrel and the cat felt when they saw that Duck was home? What in the text tells us this? And number 6, finally, why don't the animals say anything, even when Duck spills the soup everywhere? Okay, so those are your questions. If you could answer them in your own time, I've put them on the worksheet, which is Year 2 English, 13th of January, Resource 1. Okay. And once you've had a go at them, can you send them into the office like some people did last time so I can see how you got on? That would be brilliant. I love seeing what you've been doing at home. Now, have a lovely rest of your day, Year 2. Bye.